Hello, SpongicX here with part 2 of my playthrough of Sonic and the Secret Rings. This time we are going to check out the party mode. So I guess Sega realized that the main adventure of this game was too short, and so they had to add something to keep the gameplay going, and so they added a party mode which mostly feels like a separate game. Aside from having an Arabic theme with its minigames, it's like barely anything in this really reflects the game you played with Sonic and the Secret Rings. So I decided to play as my two favorite ships in the game. So yeah, I'm not really one who cares about shipping Sonic characters, but I always had a soft spot for Silver and Blaze and Sonic and Amy, so I just thought I'd play as Silver and then have Blaze, Sonic, and Amy as my competitors. So there are many different game modes here, but let's be honest, they're all pretty bad. Let's just go straight to the mini games instead. So I can't remember how many minigames there are in this. I mean, there's less than a general Mario Party minigame, though, but still, there's quite a bit, though. Like, I want to say a little over 40, maybe, but so this first minigame, Roll It Heavy Ball, it's a fun idea for a minigame, but the controls are really, really bad. Kind of like what I said in my previous video, I mentioned how there are certain parts of Sonic and the Secret Rings that would have worked better if it was made for 3DS, and this is a minigame where it's exactly one of those. You're supposed to stroke the Wii remote cursor across the screen in the direction you want your character to roll the ball, but their timing is very delayed, and sometimes it doesn't even feel like they're following your direction, so you just gotta keep mindlessly rolling around these giant boulders and hope you run over as many weird little, I don't know what you call these things, these weird little Goombas wannabes, and yeah, this would have worked a lot better with touchscreen controls, but so either this would have worked better as a 3DS game, or heck, even I'm surprised they didn't bother making a Wii U port of this game to use the Wii U gamepad for some of these mini games, and that would have been a little better, but so I mentioned in part 1 how I thought the graphics of the main story mode were pretty good, despite how it doesn't have HD or anti-aliasing, but in multiplayer mode, the graphics are really bad in certain areas. It's a shame, too, because it looks like these could have looked pretty decent, though. There's some nice detail in the background and all that, but a lot of the times the non-HD graphics just cause the images to look a little too fuzzy, or it's really hard to look at in certain spots, and then when the camera's too far away from the characters, it makes their edges look too jittery, and that's pretty much common with every game that before HD was a thing, and that's what's real annoying, because this game came out when HD was a thing, because, Microsoft and Sony at the time released their first HD consoles, and Nintendo chose not to join in on the HD bandwagon. And they're always doing that. I mean, now we're on 4K, and Nintendo is late to 4K, and there are rumors that they're going to be doing a 4K Switch, but even then, it sounds like it's not going to be a new console. It's going to have the same lower performance as the Switch compared to, the past two consoles, or the last two recent consoles from Sony and Microsoft, and yeah, that's real disappointing. So this first minigame is nothing special. It's mostly just a pitching machine, and you have 3 chances to hit the balls, and it has to be a home run, otherwise the score doesn't count. So I didn't get a single home run. I did hit the ball that third time, but it wasn't a home run, so I lost, without a doubt. And spoiler alert, everyone hits it just once except for me. Well, yeah, I hit it, but I didn't get a run, though. So everyone but Silver won. What is going on with Sonic here? That is not how you hold a bat. Are his hands growing out of the back of his back or whatever? Or, that's just weird. Amy doesn't look too natural with the way she holds the bat either. Which is strange, she's always holding a massive hammer. You think she'd know how to hold a baseball bat properly. I almost considered, instead of having Silver and Blaze there with Sonic and Amy, I almost considered having Shadow and Silver there, so the roster was all four Hedgehogs, but I just decided to have 2 boys and 2 girls instead. Favorite Sonic couples, basically. So this one is very simple, but it might be a little tiring and boring, because it's literally a grind. You gotta rotate the Wii remote in order to rotate these grinders, and so at first I thought the goal of this one was to rotate it as fast as you can, but apparently that's not the case, because sometimes you can accidentally trip one over into your opponent's goals, and so yeah, you gotta try to get it more into your goal or something like that, and yeah, this is a weird minigame. I don't know. So yeah, by default, the main 4 characters in this game are the original 4 heroes, either of, Sonic Adventure or even Sonic Shuffle, which this is likely heavily inspired by. Sonic Shuffle was the first and, at the time, the only Mario Party-inspired Sonic game, and so far this is the only other Sonic game to have a minigame, like Mario Party-like feature, and so, by default, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy are the only playable characters, but you can unlock the additional 4 characters through Adventure Mode by collecting the red star rings, I think it was, and they were really painful to get. I remember I had to use a guidebook back then in order to unlock them, but so the additional 4 characters are Silver, Shadow, Cream the Rabbit, and if I'm not mistaken, Blaze is the last one you get, and she's the hardest one to get, because each character, it takes a certain amount of red rings to unlock them, and it practically takes like all of them to get Blaze, and I kind of think it's funny why they chose to make her the last playable character to unlock, because, this game has like a theme about Sonic having like these powers of flames with his curse and all of that, and so it's kind of suitable that they made the only fire character from Sonic the last hidden character, Blaze the Cat, and kind of neat little idea there. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but that's the way I saw it. I think Cream the Rabbit was the first additional character you unlock, followed by Shadow, Silver, and finally Blaze. So that last minigame I did, it was a Minecart one, and it's pretty simple. Not too fun. You just gotta keep shaking the Wii remote up and down to move your cart, but then you have to not move whenever something, like there were those tunnels where you had a duck, and so you just have to not move the controller at all in order to duck that stuff. I'm not sure what you call those, banisters or whatever, but this minigame is incredibly simple, except the moving the characters is a little tricky. You're supposed to hold the Wii remote upward and use the D-pad to control your character, and use the Wii remote swinging with motion controls in order to swing the racket and shoot these little parachutes into these little, I don't know what you call this, I almost want to say a dumpster, but it's clearly a cart of like carpets and stuff like that, and so this one is mostly simple, but the controls are very uncomfortable. I wish they allowed you to use the nunchuck to control your character during this, but the nunchuck is not used at all in this game, and there are plenty of minigames where they want you to use both motion controls and the D-pad at the same time while holding it vertically, and those are some of the uncomfiest minigames in this whole entire set. I mean, it is neat, though, that they let you control your character, though. I hate it when there are games where the CPU controls the characters yourself, and then you're supposed to control their motions or something. I think that kind of takes the joy out of actually controlling your characters. Because I remember, like, if you tried playing Mario Power Tennis on Wii without the nunchuck, it forced the characters to move on their own, and I didn't feel like they were as cooperative as you wanted them to be. There were certain directions you wanted the characters to move in, but because, try to get a head start in order to get a certain ball, but they responded too slowly to the point where it didn't matter how well you hit or timed the ball, the character's movement just ruined it. So yeah, at least this game allows you to move the characters, but the controls are very uncomfortable for that. The motion controls are responsive during that minigame, but the D-pad controls are pretty irritating. And So this minigame right here is very familiar to a minigame from Mario Party 3 with a similar concept. You're basically just floating down umbrellas and collecting coins on the way down, but this one's a little more annoying. It's real easy for the characters to bump into each other, and there are these pesky clouds that get in the way, and the controls are just really slow here. And darn it, Blaze, move out of the way! So if you get caught in the cloud, you're supposed to waggle the Wii remote repeatedly until the character breaks free. And standing completely still causes the characters to move very, very slowly. So in order to gain speed, you gotta tilt left or right. Yeah, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. There are barely any mini games in this that I actually liked. Most of these are pretty bad. It's still kind of a fun novelty to see a game with all these Sonic characters just doing these mini games, because the only time we ever saw this before was Sonic Shuffle, after all, and then technically the only other mini games we got with Sonic characters were the Mario and Sonic Olympic crossovers, and that's really it. But there is something kind of funny about seeing all these colorful characters just doing all these weird mini games, but if only they were a little more fun, though. This is certainly no Mario Party. This was one I remembered liking back on the Wii when I had it as a kid, but I don't know, I didn't think this one was that fun nowadays, and I don't know, the controls are a lot harder than I remember, but you're supposed to swing the Wii remote like it's a mace, and the goal is to try to knock everyone off their towers. You have 3 hit points for your tower. If you get hit 3 times, your tower knocks down. The controls are really hard here, and maybe that's the fun of this, though, because you're not just the only one who's bad at this minigame. Even the CPU are kind of bad at it, so you just got to be better than them, and that's really hard to do, though. So this is a minigame where, like, anyone can win. But, so, Sonic got eliminated first, and Blaze just eliminated me, and boy, this is insulting. I swear, these two girls barely landed any other hits after that last one Blaze just did. So, the rest of this is mostly just them swinging and doing nothing. And, yeah, that's pretty sad. Is the game trying to throw a joke that women can't aim or something? I don't know, but that's kind of insulting. Sonic was actually able to land a few hits. And Amy wins by doing absolutely nothing. The only reason Blaze lost was because, you know, like Sonic and I managed to hit her at least once, or at least Sonic hit. I can't remember if I hit her. I know I hit Sonic, though, but anyway, Amy won by... I don't even think Amy hit anyone. She won by doing absolutely nothing. Just like those Luigi Mario Party videos where he wins by doing nothing. Speaking of Mario Party, this one is clearly a direct knockoff of a Mario Party minigame, Bumper Balls, but except this one is slower and more boring. The balls are heavier and you have to control them using the motion controls, and sometimes the controls feel really irresponsive. There are times where Silver is just like heading towards a cliff, and I swear, I was not tilting in that direction. And then I tilt to go in another direction, and then he heads in a random direction. So you really gotta fight the controls in this minigame. That being said, though, I managed to win somehow, but, man, there were many times where I accidentally died in this minigame in the past because the controls were so bad. So, yeah, they took a good minigame from Mario Party and they ruined it. It doesn't have, like, the bumper bounce effect. It's just like two metal balls clanging into each other. So there's barely an impact when the characters bang into each other. Rabbit Bubble Hunt. This one is a little easier than I remember, but it's still kind of annoying. So you move the characters around with the D-pad again, and you gotta use motion controls to blow bubbles, to swing your bubble wand, and you gotta trap butterflies with bubbles. And you don't want to do it too fast or hard, though, otherwise the character's bubbles will burst as they're making them, so you gotta do it nice and slow. And there is a certain range where if you get it right, it makes the biggest bubble you can get. But otherwise, this is just another minigame that's been done in Mario Party much better. Mario Party 4 had a minigame where you properly caught butterflies with butterfly nets, and it was kind of tricky, though, to catch the butterflies with that, with the net swinging and all that. But here, this one's just a little too slow and unconventional. I mean, who the heck catches butterflies with bubbles? That makes no sense, but it does feel kind of satisfying when you're able to make a bunch of big bubbles without them bursting or making them too small, and that takes a while to master, but it's still really hard to judge where to blow your bubbles, though, because they move so slowly, and the butterfly movement is kind of unpredictable, so there are times where players just can't get a single bug, and look, like, Amy's the only one besides me who was able to get any.
That was easy.
Spike Fruit Catch. Okay, this is one that I'll admit isn't too bad. For some the motion controls were acting up a little bit when I first started, but the more I played, the better it got. But there are a lot of minigames where for some reason the motion controls are acting way too gimmicky. They're glitching out, and you can definitely notice even without seeing it in person, because you'll know, like that, didn't you see how the controller kind of glitched a bit? I mean, the lance, the way it twitched, and that was because the motion controls was having trouble registering for a little bit, but after a while, though, it starts becoming more responsive, but, so it's kind of a cool concept, though. I like how you're just catching fruit with these oversized skewers, and that's kind of a fun idea, but the minigame, I can't help but say, looks a little lazy, though. Just look at the characters. It's like the only thing that seems to be moving is their head and their right arm, but then their left arm looks like it's in a lazy T-pose. It's like, wow, how can you be so stiff when you're doing something that requires, like, this kind of concentration and precise movement? And, oh, Amy got hit there. And the only time they move is if they accidentally get hit by a fruit. But, yeah, this is just kind of embarrassing how lazily animated the characters are here. They think the player 2 icon will be enough to hide the fact that their left arm is practically in a T-pose, but wow, Blaze, you are not doing good here, princess. So I got a perfect score there, so that's awesome. Oh, 2 times in a row. Man, Sonic. Yeah, I'll admit that minigame's not too bad, but the controls could have been a lot better. But I swear, when I played this game back on my old Wii, I remember the motion controls were a little more responsive, but it could have been a number of reasons, though. It could have been because, like, it can be a number of reasons, like, for instance, on my Wii, I was playing on an old, small screen TV, so maybe the calibration with the Wii sensor bar is more compatible with smaller TVs compared to bigger TVs. It could be that my Wii remote, like, the sensor on the front might have gotten a little scratched up over the years, so that makes it a little harder to detect things, but for some reason, it just doesn't work the way I remember it. I remember the minigames were a little more responsive than this, and it could be a problem with Wii U emulation, I don't know, but that's the thing. The Wii U really isn't much of an emulator. It really is a Wii built in to run with new games, and it's not like, I remember, on the original Wii, when it could play GameCube, that was a straight-up GameCube emulator, but the one on Wii U, it practically is a Wii built in. It's a little different than an emulator, but
That was easy.
as far as I know, at least, I can't prove that's true, but I remember that's what I heard, but so that minigame right there was a little simple. The controls are a little annoying, though, because you gotta use the D-pad, but you just swing the Wii remote to hammer down those stakes, and as simple as that. You think Amy would have won that event with her skill, but this one can be fun, but the controls are a little difficult, but this is a minigame where that works for it, though. So you're supposed to be rowing in a canoe, and so you gotta keep just swirling the Wii remote around, but then you gotta tilt it towards the right for the characters to make right curves, and then you gotta tilt it towards the left for them to make left curves, and that and the camera angle, having this top-down view, makes the controls a little trickier, but it's a fun tricky, though. This is one I actually didn't mind, and somehow I'm managing to win, though, and And I insulted Super Mario Party for having some brain-dead CPUs, but this game is even worse. But I am on easy mode though, but still, even easy mode for Mario Party doesn't guarantee you'll always beat them. But in this, they made it way too easy for the easy mode.
Well,
But to be fair, this game is kind of broken though, so you're better off playing in easy mode.
I did it!
The next two minigames are once again Canoe themed, and so all the Canoe minigames aren't that bad. I actually do think these are some of the better ones in the game. They all have the same control scheme though, but they have different set of rules for each. So that first one was a race, and this one is a collection minigame. You gotta collect the most coins, and this one's a little trickier though, because instead of a race course, we have more open areas to roam around in, and turning to get directly onto these coins is a little tricky. Luckily, the CPU were brain dead during this part. For some reason, they thought it would be a bright idea to head away from the coins towards the walls, so that really left me open to getting all the coins for myself, but it is kind of a welcoming change of pace. Remember how in Sonic Shuffle, even if you're at the easiest difficulty, the CPU were broken as hell. They were able to predict everything against you. So remember how, like, to roll a dice, instead of dice, you had cards that had numbers on it, and you could actually steal from your party's deck to get the to hope you get a number you might need, and how every time the CPU did it, they always got the number they needed in order to get, like, the precious stone or whatever on the board maps. And that was so irritating. I hated how broken the CPU were in Sonic Shuffle. They were programmed to beat you no matter what, and so you rarely ever won, no matter how good you were at a minigame. And on easy mode or any difficulty for that matter. And Sonic Shuffle was hell at times, and I really wanted to like that game. I bought a Dreamcast just to play a used copy of Sonic Shuffle, and I wanted so hard to say I don't hate this game, but over the years, I gotta admit, I hate that game. I've wanted to like it, I wanted to love it, but, then this is definitely the hardest and craziest version of the Canoe race. It's like a race, but it's a survival challenge, so you gotta try paddling to stay up above this waterfall. The problem is, if you go too fast, you'll bump into the other waterfall ahead of you, and that'll slow you down, and to make matters worse, you get attacked by bees! It reminds me of someone made, like, this really funny animated parody of, the minigames in Sonic Shuffle. Like, Oma Chow was making, like, a promotional commercial of all the fun stuff you can do in this party mode, and meanwhile, you just see all these characters getting tortured in the background by playing the mini-games. Then there's the part where he mentioned, go across like a raging waterfall filled with deadly bees! I don't know. I couldn't help but just laugh at it. I'm gonna have to rewatch that sometime. That was really funny. I cannot remember the name of that video, though, but I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find. You just have to type in something on YouTube, like a Sonic animation party mode or something, I don't know, or Secret Rings party mode animation, something like that, but I remember, like, the thumbnail. It showed a pterodactyl on it. That was a funny video, though. But the controls on this one are very wonky. So you're supposed to hold up your Wii remote like it's some kind of mirror, and you're reflecting light off across the room. And so you're supposed to kill these enemies by shining light on them. But, I don't know. The controls feel incredibly off on this. And for some reason, the CPU were doing fine. But then you look at my cursor, and you notice how it looks a little more jittery. And, yeah, I don't know, but there's so many times where I'm tilting in a certain direction and it's just not responding with me. I've seen plenty of Wii games where the motion controls still work fine, so I don't know why these don't work really well anymore. I remember they worked fine back on the original Wii, but like I said, that could have been a number of reasons. Like, I can still play the Metroid Prime games just fine with the motion controls, but this just so unresponsive. This isn't even the worst. This one's still possible to win with the wonky controls, but there's some where it's downright impossible to even come close to winning. Yeah, although I said I didn't think the graphics in the party mode were that great, like I mentioned how they probably would have looked better in HD and all that, but one thing I can say though is for a Wii game, the character models were pretty good though. Like even the textures and details on the characters are pretty good, and if I'm not mistaken, this was the first Sonic game where the characters actually had 3D modeled mouths. And that's even something that they don't use in every Sonic game nowadays. They usually only use the modeled mouths during cutscenes, but like you look at the 3D model of Sonic in the past few Super Smash Bros. Games, and you can notice that his mouth is a drawn-on texture, which occasionally swaps out to a 3D model of him giving a toothy grin, but for the most part, his mouth is drawn on, and that's really stupid. So this is the first time I ever recall seeing the in-game characters actually have like an open smile on their face, like when they win a mini game or something, and that's kind of cool. I mean, even Sonic 06 didn't do that. Sonic 06 even had drawn-on mouths for the characters in gameplay. So this mini game is incredibly simple. You just gotta pick up these treasure chests and shake them around using the Wii remote, and you can hear like a noise coming from the speaker, and the louder or the noisier it is, that means that there's more treasure inside. So you have only one chance at picking just one treasure chest, but you can always throw it away to pick up another. And so I almost won here, but Amy managed to find one that had a few more coins than me, so yep, she won. Super Mario Party had a minigame very similar to that one, except you use HD Rumble, and it was a 2 versus 2 minigame, and you had to pick like 5 or 6 treasure chests. Okay, this one is okay. It can be a little tricky though, but luckily the CPU are pretty brain dead. But so this is just a simple spot the difference kind of game where but what makes this one so tricky though is you're in the dark and you can only point using a flashlight, and so they'll show 4 character portraits of the playable characters, and you're supposed to see what is off about them. And so it took me a while to figure out what was so wrong about this Amy picture, but then I noticed, oh, the one on the left, she has her hammer in it, so that's the one I was supposed to pick. But yeah, it's real easy to miss this stuff because, you know, it's so dark and you only have that little flashlight to point out the differences more clearly. And I mean, it's still possible to notice the differences without the flashlight, but it's easier to do it with it. And this one took me a while too, but it was the one on the very right, Silver's left glove. It didn't have that circle symbol on it. Instead, it had a V shape, and so it took me a while to notice that difference, but well, of course Silver got that answer right. He knows what he looks like. This one was the trickiest. I think it was the one on the right, and it had something to do with Knuckles' glove. I can't remember what it... Yeah, I couldn't even tell what the difference was. I just picked it out of random. I still don't see what the difference was in that picture, but I was guessing it was something to do with the glove, maybe, or the spikes on his glove, but I couldn't figure it out. Speaking of Knuckles, I heard the confirmation that Knuckles will be in Sonic 2. I hope Amy is in that movie too, because I hate how they always act like, okay, Knuckles should come first when they always make these games where they add, you know, characters one at a time. They always add them in numerical order. So, you know, Tails appeared in Sonic 2, so he'll be next, and then Knuckles appeared in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, so you think he'd be next. But then it's like, remember that Sonic CD was supposed to come out before Sonic 2 and 3, and Sonic CD did come out before Sonic 3 and Knuckles, so I always hate how they always neglect Amy in these games, you know, and so I hope she appears in the movie in some form, but if anything, I was expecting Knuckles to not be there until the teaser ending or something, teasing that he'd be in the next movie, and I figured the second one would have focused on Tails, but then introduced, like, Amy maybe midway or late into the movie, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't include her, though. That's just how Sega is. I still find it a crime that the other characters weren't even in the first Sonic movie, but... So, anyways, this is a pretty simple minigame. This is an okay one. Your characters are blindfolded, and you control these Omochao using your cursors on the Wii remote, and you gotta press A for them to clap and have your characters follow the noises the Omochao are making, and while making sure they don't fall into the water and all that, and it's a pretty fun challenge. I like that one. Okay, spill weight puzzle. Oh god, I hate this one. And what makes this one really annoying is there is no time limit on this level, so this minigame can go on way too long. But the goal here is you're supposed to tilt the Wii remote to spill this chest full of treasure until it has a certain weight on it that will match the yellow mark on this scale here. And whoever gets there first wins, basically. Yeah, instead of a count down, it's a count forward, and so it can just keep going until someone wins, and that can take really long. I don't know, maybe there is a penalty, some games do that, but usually it's better to have a countdown in that case. And Captain, Pirate Flag. Man, these names, it really comes across that they didn't bother properly translating these mini games for the English translation. It really feels like it's one of those things where you take like you know, Japanese letters and then you translate what it means in English, and that's exactly what this is. It's just direct translations of what they were called in Japan, but in English letters. So yeah. So this mini game is very similar to Shy Guy Says from Mario Party, except I'll dare say I like this one a little better. It's a little annoying how you have to use motion controls though, but other than that, it's a little easier though, because this one's more of a game of Simon Says, where the one in Mario Party, Shy Guy Says, that was more of, despite its name, it was more of just a teaser. You had to keep you know, the Shy Guy kept trying to mess with you. He kept holding up like a flag and then quickly pulling it away, and so it was real easy to lose that one. Where this one, it's easier to remember the movements, and I don't know, but I like that one a little better. But spin, safe dial, like this one's not impossible, but it's really annoying. You gotta rotate the joystick in a way as if you're spinning a safe dial, and you gotta remember this combination that shows up, and if you forget it, it allows you to take the risk of showing the pattern again. Very, very slowly though, so it's a risk to try to remember the pattern, but luckily I was able to get it memorized when I first played this minigame, so, but honestly, memorizing the pattern isn't the hardest part though. It's trying to get the spin dial at the right spot. It's real easy to accidentally overgo your turn, and sometimes the controls just don't act too responsive. You try going backwards and for some reason the wheel just doesn't move, and I still managed to win this minigame though, but it was no easy task though. The controls were really fighting against me. Silver wins the gold. Aim big crossbow. This one's kind of fun, but I hate how it only gives each player one turn. So in this minigame, you're supposed to pull back the Wii remote as if you're pulling back a bow on a bow and arrow, and you gotta aim and fling your character, hope they don't get hit by these two mallets, and try to aim as close to the bullseye as you can on the target. And the characters just comically splat right into it, and yeah, this one's kind of funny. And I remember once I just goofed off in this, and I was just aiming like way off screen, and it's funny to see like how the characters can tumble or bash into the wrong things, and yeah, this is kind of a funny mini game where just to mess around with. You don't have to win, just watch the characters get painfully beaten around in cartoony physics. I don't know. And yeah, that's the thing though. This game gave me a huge problem throughout, and That's how lengthy some of these minigames can be, because they have to take each individual turn with each player. You know, not every player gets to move at once. They usually have to take turns doing something. And some of these minigames can really drag on because of that, especially if there are multiple turns. But this was actually a minigame where I wouldn't have minded if it gave you a second chance. Aim color balloon. The concept of it doesn't sound too bad. You just gotta shoot bow and arrows at balloons, and whoever pops the most wins. Simple as that, but the controls are terrible. What's the point in having a crosshair if it doesn't even work? No matter where I aim, Silver's arrows just don't go there. And, like, it's easy to get the ones that are close up, but then some of the ones in the distance, it just does not hit. And I just didn't know what I was doing wrong. I mean, I tried holding longer to see if that would shoot them further or something, and nope. No matter what I do, these arrows just weren't going far. And meanwhile, everyone around me was shooting these flawlessly. The one minigame where they're not brain dead, and so yeah, there's really no point in even trying. If this minigame's ever selected, just no point in trying. This is a stupid minigame. Yeah, I just tried so many different ways of hitting these balloons, because clearly hitting them on target wasn't working, so I tried moving a little closer to the left, or a little higher up, a little lower. No matter what I did, these balloons were just going past me, and how did Amy get 50, 53, 58? Are you kidding me? Whack hatchet. This one's incredibly simple. You're just chopping wood. You just gotta swing the Wii remote to chop the wood. You don't want to chop too soon though, otherwise that will cause us a slip up. And then occasionally there will be like these really big ones that get dropped down, and your axe will get stuck to those. So you gotta swing multiple times in order to get that off. But if you swing too much, you might accidentally double swing when Omochao brings out another log. And it's a simple one overall though. I can't say it's a bad one, but it's just simple. It at least works, but I can't say it's the most fun thing ever. Part of me just wishes we could be chopping the Omochaos instead.
I did it!
This one is incredibly stupid. It's a lot like, what was it? This is a lot like Bowser's Big Blast, except with a balloon filling gimmick. So I guess it's like a cross between Bowser's Big Balloon and Bowser's Big Blast from the Mario Party games. And so this one is basically like, it's a game of risk kind of one where each player has to take turns putting air into the balloon, and if it pops on you, you lose. And so, what's the point of this? Because this one just drags on way too long. The CPU, they don't bother doing anything, and if you don't do anything, it forces you to pump it at least once when their turn ends up. So, I really wasn't going to wait around for nothing to happen, so I took it for the team. I just died. I was just, but I was mashing the Wii remote as fast as I could to get it over with, and there you go.
What do you think about that?
You happy? You guys got me so bored to the point where I killed myself in a game. Way to go. Freaking idiots. Pull on it carpet. This one is one of those like mind teaser kind of mini games where you gotta wait for this little genie character to jump so you can pull the carpet underneath him without him tripping over you, basically. And so whoever pulls the most rugs out wins, basically. And but there are times where he tricks you, though. He does like a certain motion that looks like he's about to jump, and so he's really trying to mess with you. And it's more recommended to try pulling one carpet out at a time, like when he jumps, but it's like if you're really that desperate to win, though, you can take the risk of trying to pull out as many as you can, but it's a little trickier to do that, though, because sometimes he just lands too quickly after the jump, so it's like it can usually go, like, take, like, more than 2 pulls for him to accidentally get pulled, you know, and it's easier to pull rapidly, though, if someone accidentally trips him, though, then that gives you more than enough time to, like there, see, when I accidentally tripped him, how the others started stealing some. It's easier to multi-do it during that, but either way, I won. Yeah, hard to say what is better in this game, the adventure mode or the party mode, because either way, both are pretty disappointing. I remember even as a kid, as a diehard Sonic fan, I was able to even say I like Sonic 06 better than this, and we all know how disastrous Sonic 06 turned out, but... So, anyways, this minigame is basically a race to the finish, but you gotta, you know, fall to the bottom, but the catch is that there's a bunch of storm clouds on the way down, and the only way to prevent ramming into them and getting slowed down is to basically keep flapping the Wii remote to flap these little paddles the characters have in order to let them float a bit, and it's kind of a fun minigame. Sinkum pirate ship, oh my god. The controls here are abysmal. They just do not work. I was trying so hard to tilt in the direction they wanted me to, and it just was not working. This minigame is horrible. There's no point even playing this one. How are the CPU even able to move that smoothly? Every time I move mine, it's just jitters. It is struggling to move. Such awful motion controls in this game. Is anyone else having motion control issues with this game? Because I can imagine maybe there are some people out there where they play this and they say the motion controls still work, but I just want to know, is anyone else having major issues? Could you have sworn the motion controls used to work pretty well and now they're just not working at all in this game? And I know for sure that some of these Wii games I've been playing on Wii U can still play pretty well with Wii remote controls, but for some reason this game is terrible. I'm not even trying to aim left there, and Solo was aiming left for some reason. They're celebrating because they killed people in pirate ships, apparently. This one is pretty stupid as well. Bad controls once again. So you move them with the D-pad while holding the controller vertically. You gotta swing the Wii remote to cast your fishing rod and reel it in when you feel a strong enough rumble. But the rumble during this minigame is so weak, so it's hard to tell what's a nibble and what's a bite. Because sometimes you reel it in after you feel a rumble and nothing happens. So this minigame feels pretty unresponsive at times. I'll bet Blaze loves this minigame. Because she's a cat. And, yeah, I'm not even gonna bother explaining it. You already know. Thrust Bone Knight, this one is really stupid. I feel like the controls don't work on this one either. So you're supposed to hold the Wii Remote upward to act like you're holding a shield and blocking your enemy's attack, and then you're supposed to lunge forward in order to stab the enemies when their guard is down, and it just doesn't respond. There's so many times where I'm pointing forward and the characters don't lunge, and people said like the controls in Skyward Sword weren't responsive. I can assure you they were much more responsive in this shit. I actually like Skyward Sword's motion controls for the most part. I thought that was one of the best uses of motion controls on the Wii, and this is not Skyward Sword. This is... I can agree Twilight Princess's motion controls were terrible. You really had no precise aiming or anything. You just had to just randomly just move the Wii Remote. You know, you could just shake the Wii Remote in any direction, and Link would always slash in like the same direction, and that was one that was better off for GameCube and the Wii U regular controllers and all that, but it was not worth having motion control only for the Wii version. Cross Balance Race. This is one that I hated back then, but I'll admit it actually worked a little better this time, but it's still really tricky though. So you're supposed to tilt the Wii Remote in a certain direction to keep this bottle of medicine on top of the character's heads, but the problem is that when you balance, it causes the character to stop in place, and that's pretty unhelpful because this is a race, and so sometimes if you're taking too much time trying to balance it out, and cause everyone to beat you ahead of time, and then there's randomly a gust of wind that comes by that tries blowing your medicine over, and on the bright side though, it's not like you can lose your bottle of medicine. Characters will just have a slow recovery of reaching down to pick it back up and all that, but surprisingly I actually won this time, barely though. The others almost got to me, and you have like this countdown on these points to let you know when you're getting closer to the finish line, and man, it was really close here though, but I managed to make it at last point. Everyone else was down to 1 point left, and I somehow managed to beat him. And I swear, I never win at this minigame, so it felt good to finally win that one. And I've had some like really bad luck in that one in the past, to where I couldn't even move a single step without it falling over, and it takes some getting practice. But this one, I want to say it's not too bad, but it's just really boring though. It's very familiar to another minigame from Mario Party 3, and there's one in Mario Party 3 where it was a 2 versus 2 minigame though, where this one's 1 versus all, and so you have to control like these fire hoses basically and put out the fires. Except this one is ranked by points. So the one in Mario Party 3 was more like it's basically a race to whoever gets burned up first, because you don't want the fire to get too close to your characters, otherwise they'll blow something up. But so it's whoever basically holds off the fire the most wins. And this one is very different. It's like an arcade game. You get more points for exterminating fires, and it takes too long to take out just one strand of fire though, and sometimes I'm wondering if I'm even pointed in the right area. It's like I got my crosshair on the right area, and the water's clearly hitting something, but I can't tell if it's actually working or not. And that's just real frustrating. When you're playing a game, you can't even tell if what you're doing is actually working or not. Usually you gotta have some kind of sound effect or visual to give the players a hint that yes, it's working. You know, they should have showed more steam flying out, but no, they don't. So it's really hard to tell if your aims are actually working or not. Yeah, most of the minigames that involve just pointing and clicking with the crosshairs, those are more responsive. But then the ones that require motion control tilting, those are the ones that are usually very irresponsive in this game. Like that cannonball minigame probably would have been a lot easier if it just used cursor controls, but no, it required you to hold the Wii Remote sideways and tilt in the direction you want to move it, and that just did not work. This minigame is kind of stupid, and it can go on too long depending on how well the CPUs are, but... So this is just basically a glider challenge where you gotta make it the furthest across this ocean without bumping into, these, you know, these rocks and all that, and the catch is, though, that you cannot flap. The pterodactyl can only glide, so... You gotta basically tilt the Wii Remote downward for them to skydive, and then you gotta tilt it upward for them to have a burst of air upward. And so just keep repeating up until it falls into the water and your turn is over. So I used to be really bad at this minigame, but surprisingly I won. And I used to be like so bad where I would sink immediately, and I somehow managed to make it as far as over the 600s at least. So. Definitely better than anything I did back then, but... And then the CPU surprised me. They were brain dead in this minigame. I must have been playing in normal difficulty in the past, because I remember they were doing way too well in the past, and... But I don't know, I feel like this minigame was wasted potential. It would have been cooler if it was one where you actually had a... Like, they should have made this like a race minigame or something, and... You could press the A button to flap higher and, you know, dodge all these rings, stuff like that. But just having it be a gliding minigame where the controls are very similar to the limited movement in Super Mario 64 when using the wing cap, because the wing cap didn't allow you to go up higher when in flight. It only allowed you to tilt up and down to glide, pick up momentum, and soar a little higher. And that's exactly what this is. There's no way to actually press a button to jump up higher as if you were playing Banjo-Kazooie in flight mode. And yeah, there's a reason why I like the flight controls in Banjo-Kazooie better than Mario 64.
I did it!
So at least in that one, you actually were flying, not just soaring downward. Mario was just falling with style. Spin propeller race. This one's actually more responsive than I remember. So you just gotta, I don't know, maybe it helped because I was actually playing a little differently. I held the Wii Remote over my head like I was spinning a lasso this time, and usually I wouldn't do that. I would just, you know, keep it close to my chest and spin it around in circles, but for once I just decided to, you know, just goof around, and I swung it over my head, and that seemed to help, though. I wasn't, you know, the controls were actually responding a lot better, and so this one's a little better than I remember. Clearly, you just gotta keep spinning the propeller, and try collecting as many coins as you can while avoiding the spikes. And I used to remember I used to bang into the spikes a lot. I used to either give it too much power or not enough power, but I did pretty good this round.
I did it!
For putt-putt. This one is really bad. So you think a golfing minigame would sound like a little bit of fun. Mini-golf. Who doesn't like mini-golf? But the problem with this one is not only the way they want you to hold it. Like, they don't want you to hold it like you're holding an actual golf club. They want you to just hold it like almost like you're holding like a Glock gangster style. And you're supposed to swing it counterclockwise. And it's like, what? Who swings a golf club like that? And so this one mostly feels like it's a game of luck. It doesn't actually feel like the characters are aiming, and it, you know, it's random. It doesn't matter how hard you swung, or it's just always going to go in a certain direction. So yeah, this minigame sucks. It's terrible. Sonic and Amy did not do too well that last round. I was surprised I actually made them both in, but that's the other thing. It only gives you 2 chances to win this minigame. It almost feels like you think there's going to be a third one upcoming, and then it just ends so short. I said that baseball minigame was annoying. At least that one's a little more playable. Play Violin. This one's kind of a funny idea for a minigame. It's mostly a little frustrating, though, but I think that's the charm of this one. It's a fun kind of frustrating. So, each character has to take turns trying to copy a melody on this violin, and, so you just gotta move the Wii remote to try to mimic that melody, and sometimes it just comes out a mess, and I think that's what makes this one so funny, though. Just the fact that all these Sonic characters are terrible musicians. Oh, Blaze, your father the king would be disappointed in you. Funny how we never really met Blaze's family. I mean, I thought she was a princess and all that. So, yeah, when playing this minigame, I did not have the volume on my speaker high enough for my Wii remote, because I hate the low sound quality on the Wii remote, but you really gotta want to have it higher up a little bit in order for this minigame to work a little better. Even then, I still won somehow. Okay, let's see how Amy does. Blaze and Sonic failed miserably, so let's see. Oh, Amy. Oh no. That was terrible.
I did it!
Watch out, Trap. This is one of my least favorite mini games in this game because it's just so long and boring, and it's a combination of 2 of my least favorite kinds of mini games. Ones that go on too long and luck-based. So this is basically, you know, a pick a straw kind of mini game, except you're literally picking a luck. And so the control is kind of cool, though, because when you point it, you gotta point the Wii remote forward and turn it like a key to unlock the latches and all that, but so, there's, you know, you're trying to open up all the locks to open up this treasure room. The problem is that some of these locks open up these, dungeons that, unleash, like, these monsters that will take you away if you accidentally summon them. So, oh no, poor Blaze, she's getting taken away. This one just has a really eerie atmosphere, though, like, the ambience in the background, like the loud howling of the wind or whatever. It really makes this place just feel ghostly and hollow, and yeah, but yeah, I feel like this minigame just goes on way too long, though. I just hate these minigames. Worst combination, long and luck-based. Just not fun. Uh-oh. Oh god, he's shaking. He's so scared. God, I feel so bad. Yeah, I remember this kind of scared me as a kid. I felt so bad for these characters. And at least most every other minigame, it's like when everyone gets defeated, it at least shows them all at the end. You know, it just shows that they're upset they lost. And this one, no, it does not do that. It focuses only on the winner. So it just leaves the impression that, did everyone else die off screen? What the hell did these things do to them? Oh my god. This minigame is horrible. Ah, dang. It could be anyone's match now. Okay. Oh man, it's getting really close now. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Oh no! Well, I won the minigame, but at what cost? All my friends are dead! Who needs friends when you have money? Apparently that's the moral of this minigame. Wow. Just wow. Okay, Fire Marksman. So this one's not too bad. It's like a quick draw minigame. So you gotta hold your Wii remote down like you're holding your gun out, and, well, you're holding your gun back. And then once you're given the go, you gotta raise up your Wii remote, aim, and fire at this vase, and whoever does it first wins. But, so this isn't, unlike some minigames, like, there are a lot of quick draw minigames in a lot of video games, and they have it where it has an automatic aim. So the trick in this one is, it's not automatic aim. You gotta aim with the crosshairs, and you only have one chance at shooting it per round. So if you shoot and miss, you lost that round. And so yeah, it's kind of a fun idea. And then I'm pretty sure it penalizes you if you try shooting before you're given the go. You're penalized for that. And so yeah, this one's not too bad. And I just look at their guns. I love how they're magic lamps. That's just so cool. And each one seems to be different colored for each character. That's kind of cool. New record. Wow. Haven't seen those words in this game in such a long time. Okay, we're down to the last two minigames, and these are pretty bad. The motion controls on these are really bad, and they both use a very similar control scheme. You gotta lunge the Wii remote forward and pull it back, and sometimes it just does not work. It worked the first turn I had here, but it did not the second. So, in this minigame, we're supposed to try to steal treasure from this beast that's guarding it, and so I really don't know, like, what the gimmick is here. Like, do you have to do it quickly, or if you do it or I'm not sure if it's encouraging you to do it quickly or do it slow and quietly. I'm not sure, but it's possible to accidentally get a little too little out of it, and or, you know, it's possible to wake up the creature and get body slammed. But yeah, this minigame is just incredibly unfun. I don't like it. I'm really not a fan of those kind of mini-games where you gotta get something before something wakes up, and usually there are mini-games where they want you to keep, like, either moving forward or keep, like, pressing a button repeatedly to keep swiping something until a creature wakes up, and I'm just not a fan of those kind of mini-games. And for some reason, the Wii remote just wasn't working in my favor in that last one. It kept jittering, and I was pulling back on the Wii remote and nothing was happening, so the shovel was just stuck there, and so I lost this minigame because of that, because of these stupid wonky motion controls. Sheesh, wake up the monster, why don't you, Amy, with your shouting?
What do you think about that?
So now we're down to the final minigame, and once again, it's a motion control one, except instead of controlling a shovel, we're now controlling a butterfly net, and we gotta catch these little creatures as they launch from the air, and I don't know what was going on, but my net was glitching through the floor. You know, I was holding the Wii remote high up, or I kept putting it in different positions, trying to get it to calibrate right, and it just wasn't working. This is a game that, I mean, it's games like this where this is why Wii Motion Plus was made to be a thing, because these motion controls were terrible. Look at that! It's like someone with Parkinson's is trying to play this game, and oh my god, this is just unbearable. If you think it looks bad looking at it, think how it felt with me playing it. It's like, this is not right. My hand is not shaking like that in real life. What the heck? And then the CPUs are able to do it so flawlessly, and to add insult to injury, they give you 2 turns in this minigame, so this minigame goes on way longer than it should. So I think now's a good time to wrap up this video, and that was my playthrough of Sonic and the Secret Rings Party Mode. And I already said in Part 1, the Adventure Mode, it had some fun moments, but overall it's a disappointing and pretty frustrating game, especially for its target demographic. And the Party Mode, it might be fun for a few minutes, but overall these minigames are incredibly flawed, and the board mode maps are not fun at all. So you're better off just playing the minigames as standalone minigames instead of playing the modes to accompany them. A lot of those modes mostly revolve around luck, and if you're expecting something like Mario Party where you're rolling dice and go around a board map, it's nothing like that. They're mostly like tournament gauntlets, or you know, where the minigames are just taken, and then if you win the minigame, it'll affect either your turns on the board, or it'll allow you to pick from a chest or something, and, you know, stuff like that. And they're really not fun, though. They're not worth the trouble. I've played all of them and didn't like a single one of them. Some of them drag on too long, and, well, that's all I have to say for now. Thank you for watching. See you next time, and have a great day. Next time, I think I'm going to be playing Sonic and the Black Knight.